time and the place right, yeah. Look in my eyes, no fear.
You buck up in a bad man place, you know see it would run today, say can't get away. I bring bully, what's up when fight, you should have never tried step to my face. Little boy, I need to shame, what the shame, you lose the line. You have no more time. Your destiny is mine.
This is fucked up, but me don't stop. Don't blast up my palm to the top. Get drop. Search for the key, but I put it on lock. Me, I don't scream, nah, don't talk. Big dreams, big long shot. Let the floor shake when the big man walk. Eyes on the prize for the number one spot. Kick down the door, a big man. All by myself, need nobody else. You feel the hunger and ring on the bloody bell. Cut your lights out, now go run and tell. Put the mud down right now, time to give them bass. Big blah, too fast, you know like that. Big blah, big cars, you know like that. Whole class, no loss, back, big flash. Cameraman, record that. Look in my eyes, no fear. It's the big man time and the place right. This is fucked up, but me don't stop. Don't blast up my palm to the top. Get drop. Search for the key, but I put it on lock. Me, I don't scream, nah, don't talk. Big dreams, big long shot. Let the floor shake when the big man walk. Eyes on the prize for the number one spot. Kick down the door, The target is scoped and locked for destruction. Take the target out. Set in my ways, I am changing. Every single move you're making. Since I've analyzed predictions, far beyond your comprehension.
Hello. Welcome, everybody, once again to another episode of the Space Sheriff Gav-sudan, the only show where we take a look at what the fuck is going on in space and wonder, is there a point to it all? Where's it going? What's it doing? We look to the stars and to the dimensions for answers. I am, of course, your host with the most, your mercenary with the kicks, coming to you for 2026. Call sign Haitian. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday so far. Hope everyone's having a lovely weekend or ready for the week ahead. I'm here to send you on a light note into the week with another episode of the Space Sheriff Gav-sudan and another episode of Super Space Sheriff Gav on Infinity. And man, we've had a few choice words about this show over the past couple of weeks. However, they come from a place of love. They truly do come from a place of love because we want to know what's going on with this show. We are now roughly about 7 episodes away from the ending, and it just seems like we're going all over the place, doesn't it? Like, it just feels like we're kind of like on a bizarre ride through it all. We're on a bizarre ride through space and time with no clear direction, right? We just seems to be going every which way and not really settling on a... Sorry, I had to yawn. We haven't really settled on a narrative. The show has just kind of been here and there with it. And just trying to understand what it's trying to do has been nothing short of a gargantuan battle. But not a battle as with its predecessor, where it became a aggravating lesson in futility. But this time it's just more like seeing or trying to piece together where it's all going, where it continues to just plot along and go in very different directions than what we're expecting. It's this weird kind of it's this weird place where it's it's not bad, but it's not good either, and the fact that it's not good has us still watching, wondering why it's not good. If that makes any sense. It's just aimless. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It doesn't seem to know what it wants to be. It doesn't know what kind of identity it wants to have. Whether if it wants to be an homage or if it wants to be its own thing, or even just I can't even think of a third. There's definitely a third one, but I don't know what to equate it to. But it definitely doesn't know what it wants to be. It's telling these self-contained stories and not touching on an overarching story. And, saying that out loud and thinking about it now makes me wonder if this show is truly going to end on them fighting an otherworldly menace. Right? Because if you think about it the way it wants to be, Project Red is supposed to be an MCU. It's supposed to be a cinematic universe. So does that mean that Gavan will even face anybody at the end? And that same evil is what Omega Horn will have to like contend with. Like, what's the game? What's the end game here? Right? Like, we don't know anything that's like in terms of what Project Red's end game is. We're still kind of in the dark because we don't even know what Gavan's end game is because it's just like it's suffering from, for the lack of better term, an identity crisis. Like, we're not sure what it is or what it wants to be. We're not certain, but we still watch because somehow it's amusing. Like, I don't know how to like try to like word what I'm trying to say here. It just feels like, I don't want to say it's like watching a car crash in slow motion, because this isn't that. Like, this is an actually enjoyable watch, but we're just baffled by what decisions they're making, in that they don't really contribute to an overarching story, you know? It just all feels pointless, but at the same time, we can't look away, you know? It's this weird feeling of we want to be something. We want to be something, but we don't want to commit to being something. You know what I mean? Like, we want to have a story, but we don't want to commit to a story, right? Like, that is like the most bizarre way of approaching this. It's like, we want to have a great story, but we don't want to commit to said story. What do you call that? Not a misnomer. I think there's a term for that. Not a misnomer. I forgot the word. Here's the thing. I would agree with that, but it still feels like they're putting effort into the show. So I don't want to say it's lazy. I just think misguided, maybe. Oh, oxymoron. That was the word I was looking for. It feels like such a bizarre oxymoron that you want the story, but you don't want to commit to the story. It's a bizarre oxymoron. But yeah, like, it seems like they're putting effort into everything else, but the writing just kind of is. You know? It's bizarre in the way it acts and the way it works. Makes absolutely zero sense. As does today's episode, also makes no sense. Because the newest Gavan is an AI train. And I want you guys to let that sink in. An artificial intelligence controlled train. Or an AI that controls a train. It's an AI, we know that. The newest Gavan is an AI. But it takes on the form of a train? Like, like last week's, like, here's the thing. The Ant Gavan was one thing, but at this point now, you're just throwing random words at a wall. And hoping that makes something. That's what it definitely feels like. At this point now, they're just throwing ideas at the wall, and whatever sticks is what they're rolling with. I don't know if this is going to be like a testament to the improvisational abilities of the writers, but we're going to see. Because, man, just, man, it's just weird what they're doing. It's weird how they're attacking this. And, like, I could talk about it, but I feel like we need to see how they execute. We need to see how they go about this. We need to see how the execution is on this. So let's go ahead and head over to our patented cinemas. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. So here we are in our cinemas once again, as we get ready to take on Gavan Infinity once again. Let's just see where they go with this. Let's see what they have planned for us. Turning off my brain, as I do when I watch this show, because sometimes you gotta, just gotta like turn off your main senses to just enjoy what's in front of you. Because as it stands, it's just been kind of all over the place when you think about it. So let's go ahead and see what the show has for us today. This is Super Space Sheriff Gavin Infinity, episode 16. Let's get it. Project Reto. Oh, right off the bat with another Emons. Right off rip. Interesting. Not even a build up to this one? This guy's just here? Wait, what? Big Priest. What kind of emotion makes you big? That's the question right there.
あいつの家がうちより立派。それが感情が暴走した理由か。一般市民が願い盛りギア事件に巻き込まれるケースが増えてきた。
Wait, that makes no sense. How is that a bad thing?
カレル様より入電、多元地球ファイ579にてメガ波動が確認されたとのことです。
また昼飯お預けかよ。了解。いいじゃん。
Nice. Trains. Russia.
列車が宇宙を走ってます。
Wait, they're just allowed to dock in that version? What?
ここは駅か。
でも誰もいませんね。
It's a train. The Gavan is a fucking train.
生命体のお客様がご利用するのは新車両導入によるダイヤ改正以来でございます。
なんだこいつは。
車掌ロボットのビッグリンガーと申します。
へえ。俺は銀河連邦警察の土器0時多元地球アルファ0073から次元を超えてきた。よろしくな、ビッグリンガー。
別宇宙からのお客様とはびっくりです。
You look like an M or gear in and of yourself.
ご利用誠にありがとうございます。
This just like this is just I don't know what to say to this. Just I'm already like just freaking
ファイ579かつてこの地球をさまざまな試練が襲ったガンマ線バースト、地殻変動、氷河期の到来、激変する地球環境を前に人類は肉体を捨てることを決断。意識をデータ化してサーバーに移り住むことで過酷な環境を乗り越えたのだ。
that
へえ。人類がデータ化された宇宙か。
huh.
ご注意ください。海洋世紀エクスプレスキャバリオン99号発車いたします。
Gavarion. Interesting.
人類がデータ化してるならネットワークを通じてどこにでも行けるはずなのに、どうして鉄道が必要なんだい？
理由は様々ございますが、最も大きな理由はびっくりのため。
びっくり。
Surprise?
人々はデータになったからこそ生きている実感、驚きを何よりも大切にされています。火星の大峡谷、木星の大赤斑、土星の大リング。
The
デー
fuck?
タとして得た情報ではなく、実際に訪れて見て感じることでしか得られない。
I'm baffled. What?
人類には
I'm baffled.
ですが、それも旅の安全が守られてこそ、願いモルギアの件、各路線に共有しました。
ああ、一刻も早く見つけ出さないとな。
はい。
So wait, are you a human AI or nah?
木星発のエクスプレスギャバリオン25号が異常な速度でガニメデ駅を通過。こちらの停止命令を一切受け付けない。
Uh-oh.
25号にはおよそ300万人が乗車。車内で何らかの異変が発生したものと考えられる。
エクスプレスギャバリオンが暴走。
願いモルギアか。
私も行きます。いました。25号です。暴走の影響で客車のストレージが発熱。冷却が間に合わない。このままでは爆発します。
願いモルギア反応、戦闘車両からです。
俺が止める。大佐、ギリギリまで。
Okay, so is he chief or colonel? What's the title here?
大容量ストレージがあればお客様を救出できるのですが。
あるよ。トルネードユニットの容量は理論上無限大だ。
データでも何でも吸い込んじゃいますから。
お願いします。
Hell yeah. Now this is a classic Gavan shot. And we're back!
トルネードユニット、車両との接続完了。
これよりお客様の救出を行います。お幸せ落ち着いてお乗り換えください。
乗車開始しました。
I feel like they just refashioned the Denliner cabin. Does anyone remember that?
53%。乗車率 88%。
Uh-oh. Come on!
お客様の乗車率 100% です。
よし。
Nice. Sever it! Nice. Manual brake. I love how he has to pull on it to brake.
アギちゃん、犯人の痕跡を調べて。
お任せください。鑑識始めます。
一体誰が列車に願いモルギア。
Wait.
おい、動き出したぞ。願いモルギアは回収したのに、どうして。
こちらはエクスプレスギャバリオン
Wait.
25号。エクスプレスギャバリオン25号でございます。同列車はこれより人類を滅亡させます。繰り返します。
What?
同列車はこれより人類を滅亡させます。
Huh? Explain yourself, sir. What do you mean? Wait, what? Huh? Oh!
ここ多元地球ゼータ2066では風波初音が採取した0時の血を調べ次元移動の謎を解き明かそうとしていた。
Interesting cut!
あと少しせかすとミスる。
司令、上層部からの通告だ。デスギャバンの操作を打ち切れとな。
Huh?
デスギャバンは63号地球の事案につき接触を禁じるだそうだ。
What the?
兄じゃイライラすると人生損だし。
That's... what? Why?
人類を滅亡
Why the cutoff?
ことですか。
私は宇宙鉄道の最適な運行のために設計された AI です。しかしながら人類の感情は最適な鉄道の運行を阻害する危険な要素。ネガエモルギアを使ってそれを証明できました。
ではあのネガエモルギアは25号自身が
最適な運行のため当列車はこれより地球を目指し終点メインデータサーバーと激突いたします。
Oh.
どうすれば数十億の人類が止まりなさい25号。
外部からの入力は一切受け付けません。
アギがハッキングして25号さんを止めます。レーザーコンバージョン。
消えちゃった。
I love how the use of practical effects. I love how you know that's a guy in wearing a green screen suit with that thing on his head.
あなたが25号さん。
無駄ですよ。ここは電脳真空空間。
Oh no!
踏切お客様後ろにお下がりください。
車掌さん。
ダイヤの乱れは私が正します。到着到着。
God damn! Wait, what?
アクティベ宇宙鉄道刑事ギャバンダイヤグラム出発進行。
You don't look like a Gavan, my guy.
それはギャバンシステム発動のコマンドだ。
You look like a dude in a suit.
乗着プロセスをもう一度見てみよう。
I'm...
到着到着。
デジタル化されたエモルギーは乗着コマンドを受けて臨界点を超えプロトコル上でギャバリオン粒子と融合。わずか1ミリ秒でコンバットスーツを生成し
The combat suit looks very lazy. I'm not going to lie to you.
アクティベ
This suit feels lazy, dude. Like, what the fuck, dude?
車掌さん、ギャバンだったんですか？びっくりです。
Like, I get it, you wanted to keep it on brand with the train thing, but like, bro, like, you telling me you couldn't do that with some chrome?
銀河連邦警察のギャバンインフィニティ、俺たちが先回りして暴走列車の激突を食い止める。時間稼ぎを頼みたい。
こちら中央指揮室、了解した。25号金星エクスプレスラインに乗り入れ、地球接近を遅らせる。ギャバンインフィニティ、25号は最終的に軌道第一ステーション駅を通過する。我々のコスモギャバリオンを支援に出す。この駅を最終停車限界点、ポイントゼロとして使ってくれ。
あの駅をいいのか？
責任は 全て私が取る。
やろう、レイジ。
Okay, how you guys make such a low stakes story just so exciting in the moment? How do you do this? What is this ability that I'm sensing? Construction! Okay, that was fast. Just like, I'm trying to like understand, like, how do you make these low stakes situations like so much of a like in the moment? It just feels intense. I don't understand. How you doing, Dane? How are you managing this shit? This is so low stakes in the like in the grand scheme of things, but like in the moment, it just feels epic. Like how? How do you do this? Doriru. This is like how? How? This means nothing in the scheme of the grand story, but this moment, it's just I don't know.
その危険性を
わかります。アギにはエモルギーが感情が組み込まれていますから。
感情が
そういう風に課長が作ってくれたんです。
会長。
確かに人間には感情があるから不完全で不安定です。怖いことがあったら泣き叫んじゃうし、自分勝手に暴れちゃうこともあります。でも誰かを守るために傷ついたり、寄り添って傷を癒してくれるのも感情があるからです。たくさんの地球でいろんな人たちと触れ合ったから、アギは学ぶことができたんです。アギは人間が大好きです。課長がこういう風に作ってくれたから。
Come on, baby.
アギは感情を知ることができました。不安定だから変わっていく。前を向いて強くなれる。感情があるから。人間は最高にヤバいんです。
やっぱりやばいとは。
How'd you get in here? Boom! Oh God! Beautiful. Yush! Denshagi! Had to bring back the old Deno finisher, huh? This ain't Tokuger, it's not.
異常性動リミッター解除、重力バランサー反転、全面スラスター、最大出力。
Can we keep the train? Don't destroy, can we keep the train? Like, can that just be a thing now? That'd be cool if we could keep the train. How y'all gonna rebuild that? Nice!
くりですよね。これだから人間って最高にやばい。
Huh. Dude, that Gavan suit is just so fucking lazy, I swear to God.
犯人逮捕へのご協力感謝いたします。
やれやれ、間一髪だったな。本当にすごい列車だったね。この宇宙の鉄道技術の高さにはびっくりだよ。
持って帰って研究したいです。
持って帰られます？え？
I knew it!
地球と人類を守っていただいたお礼です。エクスプレスギャバリオン、どうぞお持ち帰りください。い
いんですか、本当に。
はい。アギさんにもお世話になりました。
That's beautiful.
アルファ地球にもぜひ鉄道の素晴らしさを伝えてください。
ありがとうございます。
I love it.
今回はアギちゃんお手柄だね。
Agi-chan was the real hero today, man. That's beautiful. We got first we got a dragon, now we got a train. This shit rules. Okay. So I have thoughts, but I think I'm going to save them for after the post-credit sequence. But, like, man, like, this... like, this in the grand scheme of things means nothing. Like, this really, in the grand scheme of the lore, doesn't really mean jack shit. But, like, man, if it wasn't an enjoyable watch. That was funny. That was great. I wasn't, like, the execution... I will say the execution of this Gavan Beat Changer was just like like was just weird. The fact that the suit doesn't feel like that big of a deal, like it just, bro, like look at all the other suits and then look at this motherfucker. Even the ant had chrome, and yet this guy is just dressed like a run of a mill friggin' train conductor, and it's like, bro, we're not breaking new ground here with this one. Nice.
この列車なら銀河の中心部にだって行けるかもしれない。とんでもないプレゼントもらったな。
お土産もありますよ。名物の惑星団子。
お、いいじゃん。昼飯抜きで腹ペコだったんだよな。で、これどうやって食べるの？
お二人もデータになれば。
食べられないじ
ついに捕まる怪盗フェイド。喜びもつかの間、超巨大隕石が地球に迫る。
イオタの危機に最大最強の守護神が降臨する。
次回超宇宙刑事ギャバンインフィニティ、笑顔のために。
頼んだよ、ギャバン。
Okay, I'm having a thought. Hold on. I need to find the shot. Because this we keep calling back to this shot. I need to find it. I need to find the opening shot. Hold on. Let me get back over here. Because we keep calling back to it, and it's something that I feel like we need to touch on because it feels like such a pivotal point that we end up calling back to a lot. Gavan Infinity opening shot. Like, I need the picture of it. Okay, hold on. Let me get this on screen for y'all. Yes, it's Reddit, yes. There we go. This is the opening shot that we know. right? This is the opening shot that we keep referring to. Like, really look at this. So you got Bushido all the way here on the far right, Gavan Infinity right next to him, Luminous next to him, and then who are these other two fucks? Because if you look at that one on the far right, that is not Rhea. That is most definitely not Rhea. And I'm looking at it like I'm looking in. That is not Rhea. Who the fuck is that? And then who's the one next to Luminous? Right? We haven't seen these two at all. Like, if I'm looking at the one next to Luminous, I think that is just Kiki, and she somehow gets a suit. Because it looks very much similar to Luminous. But that doesn't answer who the fuck the purple motherfucker is. And then on top of that, we have two other Gavans that are unaccounted for in this opening scene. Who the fuck? Who? There is... Well, they'll be in the show in the end to sell a toy. Unless these motherfuckers show up in the Zets Gavan crossover movie, I don't fucking know like what their dealio is. Who are these other two fucks? Because that purple one in the end is not Rhea. And we've not had any acknowledgement of who this one is. The one next to it. The one next to Luminous and next to the purple one. Are we supposed to believe that the purple one is supposed to be reformed Death Gavan? Because by the looks of it, he ain't getting reformed. So who the fuck are these other two Gavans, and why have they not come to the forefront? Why have we only focused on Infinity, Luminous, and Bushido, and then thrown in two other ones that like weren't jack shit? Like, what happened there? Like, I'm looking around, and there's just like, there's something off, right? And it can't be that they forgot. You literally film these things back to back. You're going to look at the script and then realize, hey, we forgot something. Unless, of course, they did the graphics in post, and then like the person who made the graphics had no idea, and just made these two, which end up being the Ant Gavan and the AI Train Gavan. But they had no idea what they looked like before, so they just like fucking copy pasted and recolored. Like, I genuinely don't know what the thought process is here. Like, it's clear that they got R3, and then these two other Gavans that just I don't understand like what it's supposed to be. But if I was to like genuinely take a stab at it, there's no thoughts in this. If I had to take a stab at it, and like they might actually use this as a weird excuse to retcon. They could just say that the premonition had some differences, right? Because remember, this initial shot was the general. I guess he's a general. I don't know what rank he is, but like the Karel. This was Karel's premonition, right? So who's to say like the premonition didn't change and they might use that excuse to retcon it? But it just seems so baffling that you gave us these two Gavans that ain't shit. Like, because I am like dead looking at that particular one. That is on that particular purple one. That is not Rhea. Who the fuck is it then? What is the end game here? Especially now that we're in the last 6 episodes now? Because you had 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 7 episodes. We're in the end game here. And we're no closer to this vision happening than we are when we started the show. I have like so many questions about like what this is. But like I am like looking at this and I'm just, this particular shot is still messing with me. Because like we've never even touched on those last two. And we're literally near the end of the show. The two that are in the vision, the two that are in that vision have never shown up. Why? Why? This show doesn't, this is why I feel like Gavan Infinity is going through an identity crisis. Right? It doesn't know what it wants to do. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It just is. So it gets me kind of like wondering, like, why are they going this route? Because it feels like to me that like every episode literally means nothing in the grand scheme of things, but when you watch the episode you're invested in what they're doing. But and when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really mean anything. Right? Like okay, if we're piecing it together like this, okay, this train is possibly what's going to get them to the center of the universe. So at least it means something. But like this overall conflict that happened in this episode means nothing in the grand scheme of things. Every plot that we've dealt with before this meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. They were enjoyable to watch in the moment as they were, yes, but what does it all mean at the end of the day? What does it all mean? Because to me, it just feels like these don't even feel like means to an end, right? Like you'd look at today's episode and you'd say, "Oh, that was a means to the end to get the mech," but then what the fuck was the conflict all about? At this point, did we really need to be here? But Kringer could have had like dealt on it on his own. He didn't really need us. Like we didn't need to be there. You just happened to have us, and we were able to like lend a hand. But like, what does it mean overall? Because these are all isolated incidents in the grand scheme of things. Every Emor gear that has ended up in someone else's hands is just some dude. He's just the criminal of the day, right? What's the overarching thing, right? It's supposed to be the question should be where are these Emor gears coming from, and we know where they're coming from. They're coming from Death Gavan, who is working under somebody else, Azazoth. So then, why the fuck are we not seeing Azazoth more? Why is Azazoth not like? It's almost like they're leaning into like when Azazoth is not on screen, everyone should be asking where is Azazoth? We're asking who is Azazoth? That's not the question we should be asking. What are we doing here? Right? Well, to be fair, the Ant Gavan only got one episode. So that tracks. But it just feels weird that we have these one-off Gavans that don't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Right? Because the two that we have associated most with, or the three now, I guess, are Luminous, Bushido, and Rhea. And that's it. So what the fuck are we doing here? And don't get it twisted, I did enjoy today's episode. I've been enjoying these episodes, but the weird thing about them is that you have to enjoy them in a vacuum. And I think we as Toku fans expect like a coherent story. We expect a through line. We expect point A at the start of the show, and then we make the story evolves to get us to point B. And instead of a straight line of a story, it's like a dotted line. And that dotted line doesn't reappear until like every 8 episodes in. So what are we doing? Like I like this show, don't get me wrong, but like what's the end game? And that's like the biggest question that we as viewers, we as fans have is what's the end game? Because when you get right down to it, none of the things that happen in these things line up with each other. Right? Phantom Thief Fade was a secondary character in the Luminous universe that somehow feels like he's playing a bigger role than he should. The fact they're trying to tell a story about AI learning human emotion, which is not good. I don't know. Again, this story was supposed to be a means to an end. It was supposed to give us the Gavadian Express, which is supposed to help them get to the center of the universe. But like, this isn't the first time they've told a story like this. Not in Gavan, but like in Toku. But like, they tried to tell the story of Zero One in one episode, and I'm like, bro, that was a long, drawn out story. Literally, 01 story was like 50 something episodes to tell the story of, of freaking human gears and having emotions and shit like that. You tried to compound that into one episode of Gavan, and I'm like, bro, that doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. So it's like we're sitting here trying to understand what it all means. 01 is trash to me. Okay, how? Actually, I don't think we have time to unpack that. But overall, it just feels like this show is just struggling from an identity. It's struggling from not having a true identity. And it's been struggling to find that identity for the past 17 weeks. It's struggled to find an identity. And it looks like it's going to continue to struggle to find an identity into the finale. Because Omega Horn is literally around the corner. And it's going to be weird to have this new guy come in, and then the guy before him, didn't establish himself. Like at that point, what is there to like not gain, but like what is there to take away from it all? If we're genuinely not telling a coherent story here, then why would we as a casual viewer, why would we even care about Omega Horn or for Project Red in that matter? You've spent the better part of 16 episodes kind of just there. Because at this point, you could have just made another Sentai season. Instead of canceling Super Sentai, you could have just made another Sentai season. You could have done that. And I think we would have been cool with it. And you could have done this exact same thing that Gavan is doing, and I think we would have been okay with it. But, like, to do this on a rebooted franchise that has not seen the light of day since, like, the late 80s, early 90s, to bring it back and then do a season where it's not going anywhere, that concerns me. And I remember saying at the start when it was started that this feels like a very, like a very basic feel-good toku. I remember saying that. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, even like feel-good tokus still have like a plot line. The plot line here is just non-existent. Well, I don't want to say non-existent. It exists, but only in a vacuum in and of itself. So we're not really like breaking new ground here. Like, the big danger at the center of the universe is only referenced every once in a while. There's no like physical investment on our behalf when it comes to that big evil at the center of the universe. There's been no build to him. They mention him and then he's like off mentioned every once in a while. That big danger doesn't feel like a threat. Tokuju is the best example of an episodic show, but it has a story. Yeah. Here's the thing. Even like, for all the shit I give Gozuger, it at least had the semblance of a story. Did they keep forgetting to call back to the story? Yeah. But at least it called back. But at least the overall premise of the rings was still kind of kept more or less important. But it was the fact that like of the overarching like contained ones, the episodes didn't I actually, now that I think about it, there was like everything else in regards to like the Gozugers and each of their individual motivations not playing a part into anything, right? Like, it just felt like the rings were there, but it was a flimsy byline because there was no true villain. There was no true like, the no ones just felt kind of there. The Brightons never truly felt like villains. And then when the true villains, the Claudes, show up, they're kind of nothing. So a lot of the things that worked around it made it into a piece of shit. But like, Gavan is doing the same thing, but it doesn't have that thing where like everything, because here's the thing, you have criminals, one-shot criminals that at least have something interesting going on, and then their henchmen, the Emons, which they don't really pop out as much, but they're there, right? Like, but overall, like, even the plot point, even the flimsy plot point that we have about these guys investigating the illegal Emorgear trade is kind of falling to the wayside. Because, again, we're nearing the end, and no one or anyone has given us reason to actually be worried about that big evil at the center of the universe. The show just struggles in what it wants to do. It doesn't know what it wants to do, and is just plodding along till we get to the ending. But somehow doesn't offend. Somehow it doesn't hurt to watch. Because somehow everything that happens in the episodes still feels like it has a point. Is it a point towards the overarching story? No. But it still feels like there's some sort of a point. Right? Now, a lot of things are shoehorned in, like the Tornado having an infinite storage and technically could work on data. That felt shoehorned. But I guess they needed it to at least, get the story across. Or at least get the story to get through. But, like, it just feels like whatever happens has a point within the episode, but rarely does it ever have a point on the overarching story. Tokuger, I would say yeah, but and again, yeah, it had an overarching story. Like, even though everything was kind of like self-contained in regards to like the places they went to and shit, at the end of the day, it all came back to the Shadow Line, right? Because the Shadow Line were the overarching villains, and we would see them all the time. There were things going on with the Shadow Line in the back, so it wasn't just like one note. The minute you lose like that dynamic, all you can do really is plot along. And Gavan doesn't really have an overarching villain, and I think that is what's hurting it. Right? Because again, we know there's a big evil at the center of the universe, but we're not constantly seeing it. We're not being reminded that it exists. They just mention it offhand every once in a while. And so what investment is there for us for him to defeat the evil? Like, even Zetz, for all of its great writing and everything, does good in not having a true overarching evil nightmare because Code ends up being the evil, or in actually 3 ends up being the evil that they need to fight, and that's been the ongoing thing. There's ongoing movement, ongoing story there. But even like when you like dumb it down kid style with Sentai, like they did with like Goanger or Tokuger, or even in Kamen Rider with Deno, there was still a point to everything. Gavan, it almost feels like with Gavan Infinity, they're afraid to commit to anything. If that makes any sense. Like, there's a fear of commitment there. They're afraid to commit to a story because they don't have enough time to tell the story, which, again, I've seen animes with way less episodes than this tell a coherent story and build characters, yet here you are, you have 23 episodes, yet you're afraid to commit to something. You're afraid to commit to a story. And I feel like in there is Gavan Infinity's biggest weakness. Its lack of commitment. It can tell a good episodic series, but it fails at having an overarching story. So you can't watch this expecting to have a coherent story going. You got to turn your brain off. That's why in the moment I can enjoy the show, but then I have to look at it critically and realize there's some flaws here. Gavan Infinity is a good watch for what it is, but man, it just doesn't know what it wants to do. It's a little bit lost in its identity. And we're getting near the end here of the series. And it just begs the question of, what do you do now? You have 7 episodes left. You got to try to tell something. And by the looks of the preview for next episode, it doesn't feel like we're going to get back on track anytime soon, which worries me. Because again, with every week that goes by, you're telling less and less of a story. And ultimately, it ends up not meaning anything. It's a bizarre way of going about things, I'll say. Again, this episode was good in its self-containment. It seems like the final episode is the fight with Death Gavan. That's what it seems like, doesn't it? Because the way it feels like to me, Azazoth is going to be the big evil for all of these guys. That's why instead of like making it an overarching story, that evil at the center of the universe is going to be something that Gavan Infinity, Luminous, Bushido, Rhea, Omega Horn, and any other hero that comes after that is going to have to deal with. And we don't know how long that's going to be there. Right? Because they're going to have to try to find a way to keep that monster at the center of the universe relevant for us throughout all of these series that you're going to put out before they fight the big bad, to keep it relevant so we give a damn. Because there's clearly something they're doing, because the way they're going right now, it definitely feels like Gavan Infinity will not have a definitive conclusion. It definitely feels like the show is going to end open-ended. Because at the end of the day, we're not doing anything for a definitive end. Gavan Infinity refuses to commit to a definitive story, and I think that's by design, which makes that even more terrifying to say. They're not committing to a story because the story they want to tell is literally an overarching one across several seasons, across several new heroes, before they confront the evil at the center of the universe. And I'm like, the way they're tackling it might be possibly the worst way to go about it. Because if you're going to drag this guy who's the evil at the center of the universe, if you're going to drag it out amongst different hero generations, you're going to lose us if there's not like evils in between for them to fight. Right? The only way it would make sense is if you, in Omega Horn, you introduce a villain that is acting on the behalf of that evil. Right? You get to the end of the series, they defeat that evil, but they've come aware now of the evil of the center of the universe, and then you go to the next series and you keep doing that until you feel like you have enough heroes to fight the evil at the center of the universe. So again, I don't know what their plan is. I genuinely don't know where they're going with this at all. But in a vacuum, Gavan is still an enjoyable watch. But it's just weird that there's no definitive direction in where the show is going. It's annoying to think about. But hopefully there's a good payoff, because as long as you can give us a good payoff, then we can at least look back on this show and be like, oh, that's what all that meant. But as it stands right now, we're kind of out in the cold. We're here in the nothingness. We're here in the void with nothing to go on. The episodes are self-contained, and there's no really need to like speculate on what all it means, because we've not been given a lot of reason to do that. But when it comes down to it, like, the show is still enjoyable. But, as someone who's craving good storytelling, this ain't it, man. This ain't it. This is pure turn your brain off and enjoy feel-good tokusatsu. That's all it is. It's like, it's not schlock. I don't want to say schlock, but it's an action show for the sake of an action show. Like action movies that exist for the sake of being an action movie? Just for gratuitous explosions and firing guns and like racing and shit like that. That's what this is. This is Toku for the sake of Toku. There's no actual point to it. It's just there to be entertaining. That's how I approach this show. But let me know in the comments, if you're watching this VOD later, let me know in the comments what you guys think. How are you guys feeling about Gavan Infinity as we're 16 episodes in? How are you feeling about the show? Do you feel like it's just meant to be brainless entertainment? Do you think there's actually an overarching thing going on that we're not just paying attention to? Like, let me know, because I want to know. I'm always checking comments. I'm always looking at them. Even if you don't see me put that little heart on them, I do see them. I am looking at them. And I will respond to even ones that I think are making a damn good point. Because ultimately, again, this show is not just a react show. It's a discussion. And the discussion right now, I feel like, needs to be, where the hell is Gavan going? The show is just to buy the toys with no story. I can believe that. The problem, though, is that if you don't show us in the show why we would want to own the toys to begin with, how is this going to sell any toys? Right? Because for all intents and purposes, the mechs, when they show up and do stuff, it's really nothing in the grand scheme of things. In the moment, do they look cool? Yeah. But, like, if there's no story investment, why would I invest money in the toys, you know? But again, let me know what y'all think. And on that note, we're going to wrap up the Space Sheriff Gav-sudan for today. I hope to see you guys back here on the time feed next week for another episode of the Kamen Rider Zetsudan and the Space Sheriff Gav-sudan as we inch closer and closer to the finale on both shows. If anything, it looks like, and I could be wrong, I wouldn't mind being wrong, but it does seem like Zets and Gavan could be wrapping up at roughly the same time. It's kind of crazy to think about, but they may actually be roughly ending around the same time. And that'll be crazy. That'll be crazy to see. Right? So hopefully you guys will join us on this journey as we inch closer and closer to the end of both shows. And then from there, Omega Horn and Mice take the stage. But until then, I hope to see you guys next week for more of the Zetsudan and the Gav-sudan. Remember to always leave a comment regarding your thoughts and everything. Like I said, I do check them. Follow me on all the socials at @callsignhenshin. And ultimately, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you guys have yourself a lovely rest of your week. I have a full week ahead of me. I'm starting my new job tomorrow, so hopefully, fingers crossed that all goes well. Hopefully you guys will be here next week. I hope to see y'all here because, again, I love doing this show. I love streaming. It's one of the very many joys that I get in this life. And I hope you guys will, continue to indulge your boy. Continue to give us, something to look forward to. Give us something to talk about. Because that's how we do things around here. That is how we approacheth things here. This is how we do. Wheels are shining, shining, money's piling, piling, piling. I'm just riding, riding, roll, roll. This is how we roll, 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 roll. And on that note, guys, let's go ahead and start sending y'all off. YouTube, y'all can chill. Let's see where I can send my Twitch viewers on today. All right, on the Twitch side, I'm gonna send y'all over to Veggie BL Tail, who is doing some bad game bingo. But on YouTube, y'all can just chill. But on both platforms, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Space Sheriff Gav-sudan. I hope to see y'all next week. And until then, I am Henshin, your host with the most, coming to you live, coming to you with the kicks from 2286, reminding you that the future is yours and yours alone to conquer. So conquer it by any means necessary. I love y'all. Stay safe, stay sexy, but overall, stay awesome. And I will see you all next week. Until then, peace out.